The sky was black and full of stars. The spaceship moved fast through the darkness like a falling star. Inside the ship, a man named Eric sat in the pilot's seat. His hands shook and sweat covered his face. Warning lights flashed red. A loud voice spoke. From the ship system, critical damage emergency landing required. Eric pulled the controls and tried to keep the ship steady. He looked at the planet below. It was strange and full of gray mountains and purple clouds. He had no choice. He pressed the button for crash mode. The ship shook harder. Metal screamed. Fire burst from the side. Then everything went white. When Eric opened his eyes, he was on the ground. Smoke rose around him. Pieces of the ship were broken and burning. He touched his head and felt blood. But he was alive. He pulled himself out from the wreck. His legs hurt, his arms were sore, but he could walk. The air was thick, but he could breathe. The planet was quiet. No wind, no animals, just silence. He looked around and saw mountains. In the distance, the sky was purple and 3 moons hung above. He grabbed a small bag from the wreck. Inside was food, water, a flashlight, and a scanner. He pressed the scanner button. No human life detected. Only one unknown life form very far away. Eric built a small shelter using broken ship parts. He lit a small fire. Night was coming fast. He sat close to the fire and ate a small meal. The heat from the fire felt good, but the silence made him nervous. Suddenly he heard something, a soft sound like footsteps on sand. He stood and turned with the flashlight, but there was nothing, only empty ground and shadows. He sat again. Maybe it was just his mind. Maybe it was the wind. But there was no wind. Later that night the fire burned low. Eric's eyes started to close, but then he heard it again, a soft whisper, his name, Eric. He stood quickly. The flashlight flickered. He pointed it into the dark. Still nothing, just rocks and silence. He moved back into his shelter and held his knife close. He could not sleep. His heart beat fast. Every sound made him look up. When the sun rose the next morning, the planet looked peaceful again. Eric stepped outside and checked around. He found something strange near the fire. Footprints, not his, small and light, but not animal either. He followed the prints for a few steps. Then they stopped like the person just vanished. He looked up but saw nothing. Just the sky and the empty land. He checked the scanner again. Still no human. Still one unknown life. Now it was closer, very close. That night he built the fire bigger. He kept the knife in his hand. He sat with his back to a rock wall. His eyes watched the dark, and then he saw her at first, just a shape, tall, thin, glowing softly in the night. She stepped from behind a rock and looked at him. Her skin was silver blue. Her eyes were bright like stars. She wore something like a cloak made of light. Eric stood slowly. He did not raise his knife. He only stared. She looked at him for a long time. Then she smiled. It was small, almost sad. He said one word. Hello. She tilted her head, then took one step closer. Her voice was soft like music. You are not like the others. Before he could ask what she meant, she turned and walked away. Her glow faded into the shadows. Eric stood alone again, but now he knew the truth. He was not alone on this planet. Someone was watching him. Someone not human, and she knew more than she said. Asterisk. The night was long and cold. Eric sat by the fire and stared into the dark. His mind was full of questions. Who was she? What did she mean? Why did she watch him and say nothing else? The flames danced like spirits. The wind finally came. Soft and slow, it carried whispers, not real ones. Just memories. He remembered her voice, so gentle, so strange. You are not like the others. He tried to sleep, but his eyes would not close. He felt her presence like a shadow in his thoughts. She had walked away into the night, but something told him she was still near. At sunrise, Eric stepped out from the shelter. He walked to the place where she stood. The ground was marked, not footprints, but symbols, drawn with a sharp stone, circles, lines, stars, and something that looked like a human hand. He touched the marks and felt heat, not from the sun, but from the ground itself. Like the planet was alive. Far above, 3 moons still floated. One of them began to fade into daylight. Eric followed the symbols. They led him to a hill of black stone. At the top he stopped and looked down. There she was again, but now she did not hide. She stood in the open and looked back at him. Her silver-blue skin shimmered under the light. Her eyes glowed with soft gold. She did not move. She only watched Eric took one step down the hill, then another slow, careful. He did not want to scare her. She lifted one hand and placed it over her heart. Then she spoke again, her voice clearer this time. You are not like them. You came alone. You are not full of war. Eric stood still and listened. She pointed to the sky. Your kind came before. They took and broke. They left me here. I was the last. Eric's face changed, shock, sadness, confusion. He tried to speak. I mean humans. We never heard about this planet. We never came. She looked at him with deep eyes. Your voice tells truth, but the blood speaks loud. Some from your world came long ago, before even your stories began. They called it a test. But it was war. Eric stepped closer. He held out his hand. I'm not like them. I didn't know. I only crashed here. My ship is gone. I can't leave. She looked at his hand. Her eyes blinked slowly. She touched his fingers. Warmth passed between them, not heat, but something old, something that felt like memory. I'm Sayla, she said with her voice low. I watched you from the moment you fell. I thought you would be like them, but you saved fire. You sat in silence. You did not hurt the ground. Eric smiled a little. I'm Eric. I'm just a man, a lost one. Sayla looked to the west. The land there was dark and full of sharp rocks. She pointed. That place holds what remains of your kind. Their machines, their lies, their pain. Eric followed her gaze. His heart felt heavy. Maybe he was not the first human here. Maybe this was not a new story. Maybe it was an old one repeating again. Sayla turned and began to walk toward the dark land. She spoke without looking back. If you want to know why you are here, follow me. Eric looked at the sky. The suns were rising, two bright lights, one red, one white. The shadows began to run away. He picked up his bag and followed her footsteps. The Watcher was no longer hiding, and the planet was not empty anymore. Behind a far mountain something moved, something large, something with red eyes. But neither Eric nor Sayla saw it yet. The rain came without warning. It fell like silver dust from the sky, silent, cold, strange. Eric had never seen rain like this. It did not soak his clothes. It touched his skin and vanished. Like it was made of light. He followed Sayla through the stone valley. She moved like she was part of the wind, fast, calm, unbothered by the sharp rocks or the strange air. They reached a cave hidden behind black trees. Inside the cave, the air was warm. A soft glow came from the walls, like the cave was breathing. Sayla stopped and looked at him. You have questions? Ask now. The silence of this place listens. Eric sat on a smooth stone. He looked at her and spoke slowly. You said my kind came before. When? How? Why do I not know? Sayla touched the cave wall. A light formed under her hand. It became a shape, a memory written in stars. Long ago they came from your world. They brought machines. They spoke of peace. But their hearts were full of hunger. They wanted the core of this planet, its energy, its power. They called it life fuel. Eric watched the glowing shapes on the wall. He saw ships, he saw fire. He saw alien people running, falling, burning, and then he saw her. Sayla, younger, surrounded by fire, reaching for someone. Then alone. You were there, Eric said. You saw it happen. She nodded slowly. I was a child. I survived. My people fled. Some were taken. Some were lost in the ground below. Eric felt a deep ache in his chest. This planet was not just rock and sky. It was memory. It was pain. And it still remembered. He stood and looked at Sayla. I did not know. None of us were told. This history is gone from Earth. She walked toward a deeper part of the cave. Then she turned and said, that is why you were sent, not by accident, but by silence. Eric's heart beat faster. He stepped forward. What do you mean? My ship crashed. It was damaged. It was not planted. Sayla placed both hands on a glowing stone. The cave opened. A path below the ground was metal. Old human tech, rusty, silent, but not dead. Eric walked slowly to it. He touched the side of a control panel. The screen lit up. His name appeared. Welcome back, Eric Thorne. Mission status failed. Reconnect with Subject 01. Stepped back. What is this? Why is my name here? What is Subject 01? Sayla looked at him with steady eyes. You are the first one to return. But you were not the first one sent. Eric felt the ground under him shift. The planet was not just a place it was watching, it was remembering. Suddenly the screen blinked, warning. System scan complete. Subject 01 detected. Sayla's face change. She stepped back. That name, it is what they called me when they trapped me, when they tested my blood. They gave me that name. Eric stared at the screen. You're Subject 01. You were part of the mission. You were the experiment. She turned away. I was a child. They said I was special. They used machines to change me. They left me when the war came. Eric reached out his hand. Salah, I am not them. I don't want this. I didn't choose this. She looked back at him, her eyes full of light and storm. Then help me stop it. Help me destroy what they left behind. The metal under their feet began to glow. The old tech had awakened from deep below. A low sound echoed like a machine breathing again. After years of sleep, the screen flashed one last message. Human contact complete. Defense system activated. Derek turned to Sayla. We need to leave now, but it was too late. The ground cracked open. A red light spilled out, and something with cold metal arms began to rise. The ground screamed like it was alive. Metal claws tore through the earth. Red light burst into the cave. The machine rose like a god from the grave. Its body was broken, but its eyes burned with command. Eric pulled Sayla back. The old tech recognized her. It called her Subject 01. It called him Human Unit. It called both of them targets. They ran into the tunnel behind the cave. Dark, narrow, endless, but they had no other way behind them. The machine followed, slow, heavy. Its steps crushed stone. Its voice echoed through the rock. Reacquire the subject. Reacquire the subject. Sayla moved fast. She did not speak, but Eric saw her fear. This was not just an old machine. This was memory made solid. This was history with teeth. After an hour of escape, they reached the edge of a red desert. The ground was cracked like dry skin. Tall towers of stone reached for the sky. Lightning danced between them. But there were no clouds. Sayla stopped. This is the forbidden zone. No life enters, no life returns. Eric stepped forward. But we have no choice. Behind us is death. Maybe ahead is truth. She looked at him, eyes tired, but brave. Then we walked together. No turning now. They entered the red land. Each step made a sound like glass breaking. The air was thick. Time felt slower here, like something was watching them from beneath. In the center of the zone they found it. A door made of light, floating in the air. No frame, no lock. Just light waiting. Eric reached toward it, but Sayla stopped him. Only those marked by the core may pass. It will test you. He nodded. Then stepped in. Instant silence. No sound, no ground, no sky. Only white. He heard a voice, his own. But not him. It spoke of orders, of missions, of memory wiped clean. It showed him flashes. He was not just a pilot. He was chosen, trained for this planet. Sent with lies, the crash, the damage, the story of accident. All false. He was part of a second experiment, sent to finish what the first mission started. Outside the door, Sayla waited. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from the planet. It was speaking to her too. It was waking. Eric stepped out from the light, his face pale, his voice low. I was not supposed to know. I was not supposed to care. But I do. Sayla touched his arm. Then you are free, but that freedom has cost. The ground shook. A wave of red energy spread across the zone from far behind them. The machine was still coming, but now something bigger moved beneath the surface. Ayla looked to the horizon. The sky cracked. Something old was rising. Something that remembered both human and alien blood. She whispered, the planet has decided to remember. Now we must decide to survive. Eric nodded. He looked ahead. No map, no answers, but only one path forward. Asterisk. The stars were falling from the sky. Not real stars. Not fire, but machines. Small black machines with wings like knives. They flew above the red zone without sound. Watching, scanning, waiting. Eric and Sayla hid beneath a sharp stone ridge. Their bodies still, their breath slow. Above them the sky burned orange. Below them, the ground pulsed like a heartbeat. They had escaped the light door. But something had followed. Not the machine with arms. Not just that. Something worse, something hidden in the ground. Now awake, now listening, Zela pressed her hand against the stone. She whispered words in her old language. The stone answered. A hidden path opened under their feet. Dark, cold, silent. They climbed down, no words between them, only thoughts, only fear. At the bottom, they found it, a metal gate covered in symbols, some alien, some human. Eric touched one symbol. It lit up blue. He touched another. It turned red. Then a voice spoke from the wall. Cold, flat female. Welcome, Director Thorne. Clearance granted. Project Corelight access approved. Eric stepped back. Director, that word, he had never heard it with his name before. Selah looked at him, her eyes full of questions. He looked back. I don't know. I don't remember. The gate opened. Inside was a room older than time. Screens still glowed, machines still hummed. And in the center was a large glass tank. Inside it was a girl, asleep, not human, not alien. Selah walked forward, her steps slow, her face pale. That is me, she said. That is the other me. That is what they built. Eric read the screen beside the tank. Subject 01 hybrid success. Emotion fully developed. Human memory integration failed. He turned to Selah. They made a copy. They made you. For war. She closed her eyes. I was never born. I was created, grown inside this place. I remember trees, but they were images. I remember music, but it came from machines. Eric stepped closer to the tank. The girl inside looked just like Selah, but younger and crying. She feels, Eric said. Even now she feels trapped. Selah nodded. Because she is me. She holds my early self, my pain, my broken past. Suddenly the tank blinked. Warning, power loss, containment breach. The glass cracked. A high sound filled the room. Not pain, not anger, but sadness. The girl opened her eyes. Gold light poured out. Not dangerous, but endless. Looked at Eric, then at Selah. Then she spoke. You were not supposed to come back. You were supposed to forget. Eric stepped forward. I remember now. I was sent here, not to save but to erase. The girl whispered. Then why did you not erase me? Eric looked at Selah. Because you are not the threat. You are the story they tried to bury. The walls shook. Above them the ground split open. The machines were coming. The planet had sent them, not to kill, but to protect its last secret. Selah held Eric's hand. We must end this. We must free her, or we all remain prisoners of their lie. Eric nodded. Then let's break their truth and build our own asterisk. The world was falling apart. Not with fire, not with war, but with memory. The sky tore open like paper. Old machines rose from the ground like ghosts. Some flew with wings of steel. Some crawled with legs made of bone and code. All of them moved toward one place. The chamber below the forbidden zone. The place where truth had been sleeping. Inside the chamber, Eric stood beside the glass tank. Selah beside him, and the younger version of her. Still inside. Still glowing. Still afraid. The lights above blinked. Power failure. Final lock disengaged. The glass melted like ice. Not shattered, not broken, just gone. The girl stepped out. Her feet touched the floor like wind touches water. She looked at Selah, her voice soft like snow. You kept me waiting for a long time. Selah reached out and held her hand. I know I was scared, but we are one now. You are not alone. Above roared. A new sound came, deep, heavy, slow. First war machine entered the chamber, not tall, not fast, but massive, covered in human symbols. A forgotten flag painted across its chest. It scanned the room. 3 life forms detected, 2 alien, 1 human. Protocol clear. Reset required. Derek stepped in front, his hands empty, his voice loud. I am the last of the team you sent. I reject the mission. I reject the command. These are not enemies. They are victims, and now they are family. The machine paused, just for a moment. Then it raised its weapon, but Selah moved first. She lifted her hand. Her eyes flashed with light. Not fire, not death, but memory. She shared everything with the machine, all the pain, all the time, all the silence she lived through, alone. Machine froze. It began to tremble. Metal bent. Sparks flew, and then it shut down. One by one, other machines entered. They saw the memory inside the first one. They stopped too. Eric looked around. They are not fighting. They are listening. Zelah's voice echoed. They were never alive. They were programmed to obey. But truth can rewrite even code. Suddenly a new signal came through the old human tech. A message from orbit cold commanding human vessel above the planet. Transmission to surface unit Eric. Thorn, you have 1 minute, leave now, with data only, or we will erase the zone. Eric listened, then replied, I am staying. I have found something more than data. I found someone real. I will not return without her. The message paused. Final reply. Then you are now marked lost, erased. The connection ended. Sela looked at him. You chose to stay. Even when you could run. Eric smiled. Running was never the answer. I ran from the truth all my life. Now I walk with it. The machines powered down the chamber. Lights turned blue. The planet was no longer hiding its past, but something deep below still stirred. Older than machines, older than memory, something that was never supposed to wake. Sela turned to Eric. This is not over. We stopped the weapons, but not the wound. Eric nodded. Then let's heal it together. The wind returned at last, but it did not carry dust. It carried voices, old voices lost in the soil, buried in code, waiting to be heard. Eric stood at the edge of the ancient chamber. Below him the world's heart was beating. A giant pulse of light came from the core, slow, heavy, alive. Sela and her younger self stood beside him. Not two beings now, but one memory, one soul. One truth made from pain and love. Above them the sky had changed. The stars had turned, the moons had faded, and in their place a light had appeared. Not a machine, not a ship, but something. The planet itself had grown. A tower of crystal rose from the deep earth. It sang as it moved. It whispered names never spoken before. It called both of them forward. Eric reached for Sela's hand. Do you hear it? She nodded. It is asking. It is not giving orders. It is asking if we are ready. They entered the crystal tower. Inside there were no walls, only echoes, reflections of every choice they made, every word, every silence. A voice greeted them. Not human, not alien, not machine. It said the past was written in fear. Now you are given the pen. The tower revealed its final room. At the center was the core, pure energy, shaped like a beating heart. One side glowed blue, the other gold. Two paths appeared beside it. One path led to a console, button switches, a signal to Earth. If pressed, a new wave of humans would arrive. New scientists, new rules, new cages. The other path led to silence. No tech, no signal, just freedom, but a price. Sela looked at Eric. If we choose silence, we can never leave, never return. We will live, but only here. Eric looked at the console. He saw his past, his uniform, his orders, his empty purpose. He looked back at Sela, then at the younger version still watching quietly. You gave me something real, not orders, not lies, but choice. He stepped away from the console. He walked to the second path. He placed his hand on the silent stone. The tower shook, the lights faded. All signals to Earth were cut above them. In orbit, the human ship went dark. It turned. It left. The planet was free. Sela walked beside him. You gave up your world. For me. Eric shook his head. No, I gave up their story. Now we write our own. Years passed, seasons changed. The planet healed, machines were swallowed by vines. Old pain turned into soft ground, and one day, at the edge of a glowing forest, a child stood beneath 3 moons. She had her mother's light and her father's eyes. She watched the stars and smiled, not waiting for rescue, not hiding from history, just living fully, finally together. Not at all.